Well, Razorback fans, we got to hear a little bit from Sam Pittman yesterday, thanks to an article on 3. And man, didn't exactly inspire hope. But let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of the Inside Arkansas live show, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Friday as you have finally made it to the weekend. We will talk some Razorback baseball in the SEC tournament as that starts up today, as well as get into some other football topics like Taylen Green and his current situation, what his health is all about. But I wanted to start and talk about on the podcast today something that came out from On3 and Pete Nakos, an article that he had to sit down with Sam Pittman and discuss some things with Sam Pittman. And I will be honest, yesterday when I did the podcast talking about how I felt like Sam Pittman was lower rated as far as all of the college football coaches in the Power Four was concerned, I defended him a little bit because I try to do that, folks. I know I'm never going to make everyone happy, and I know that people are going to have their own thoughts and their own stereotypes of me of what they think I am or whatever that is. But I try to call balls and strikes. You know, if something's horrible when it's tried to be made out as good, I want to call it out and talk about it. And it'll be the same thing if something is being called out as awful, terrible, no good, trash, and it's actually not as bad as that. Like, I try to be fair in everything that I do, which I know some don't see it that way, but that's fine. Again, I'm not going to please everybody. So when I did that list, and I talked about that list yesterday, as far as where he ranks and everything, a lot of people disagreed, which I knew they would. And it was just fascinating to see where people felt like he's at, like saying he's dead last, he's terrible, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you're just going to have it. People are pissed, and I get it. But yesterday, an article came out from Pete Nakos of On3, and he had a chance to sit down with Sam Pittman and talking about some things like his current health and where everything's going and what his thoughts are on everything. And I want to be clear on this. I am really happy that Sam Pittman is doing better with his physical health in the hip. I mean, I'm serious about it because he is somebody that, you know, I think went through a lot of physical pain last year, and I don't think he showed it and how much pain he was in as much as it probably was and how painful it was. And so I'm glad because I can't imagine going through where my hip is not functioning and it's grinding and hurting all the time. I just couldn't imagine. Could not imagine. But he said that he's back. His health is better. His hip replacement surgery is great, and he's feeling a lot better. And I'm happy for that. I really am. But, you know, there was some talk about the possibility of maybe him retiring. And I was one of those who brought it up a year ago because it just seemed to add up a little bit. It seemed to make sense that, hey, it was getting into that fifth year. He went 4-8, didn't want to end on that note. He wanted to end on a better note. He's having some health things. And I didn't say it as in a way I thought he should or that he for sure would. I was just saying it would make sense if he did. But either way, he talked about this, and here's some of the quotes that he provided. And I'm going to go through these because some of them are fine, and some of them I just take kind of an issue with. But either way, he told On3 this. He said, everyone's got an opinion, but mine's really the only one that matters when referring to the retirement and him stepping away. He said, whenever I signed the contract after the 2021 season, I signed for 5 more years. And then we won 7+ games, which was in my contract, one time that I could get an extension. So I have 3 years. And I've always said that I wanted to coach through that obligation. That's what I want to do. After that, I don't know. Part of that saying was with the retirement was the way I looked. I had a hip that was terrible. I probably looked older than I am. I've been out walking 2 miles a day now. I feel great. I love my job and this team. Everybody in this business is going through the same thing as the portal rosters. It just seems to be magnified at times in our state. My goal is to coach at least through what my contract is. Okay, so again, happy that his hip is doing well, happy that he's able to walk, and happy that he's feeling great. Seriously, I'm happy for that. And his part about the contract and everything, I don't necessarily have a problem with either. I mean, if I was had a contract, even if everyone hated me and thought I was doing a crappy job, I'm like, hey, my contract has 3 more years on it, and that's my plan. Is I plan to go through that and go through the 3-year span that I have left. So I don't have any problem with that either. I mean, he's saying those things. But where it gets to the problem, though, in this deal is when he says that everybody in this business is going through the same thing with portal rosters. It just seems to be magnified at times in our state. I disagree with that wholeheartedly because not everybody is going through the same thing that Arkansas is going through. Yes, portal does happen to everyone, but it's about the magnitude of how much it happens to everyone. Arkansas over the past 2 seasons, folks, have had 30 plus players leave the program into the portal. That doesn't include graduation. That doesn't include retirement, anything. Those are just players that went into the portal to go play somewhere else. In both years, Arkansas has been the team in the SEC that has had the most, or at least one of the most, amount of players that have left into the portal. So not every team is dealing with the portal roster changes, maybe to some a little bit, but not to this magnitude. And also, this past year, you're dealing with it a lot more because you lost some of your best players, if not all of your best players, to the portal. They went to play at other SEC schools. They chose to leave you and play against you next year. Not everybody's doing that. Not everybody's having that problem. And saying that it gets magnified at times in our state, it doesn't get magnified. It's a big deal. It's not magnified. It's a big deal when you lose that amount of players, and especially when you lose that amount of high-quality players to other schools you're going to be facing. It's not magnified. I don't like the fact that he's acting like us or fans or whoever just makes it a bigger deal than what it is. No, it is a big deal. It is a big deal. So I disagreed with that. He went on to say that he said the toughest part of the job right now is that you're not in revenue sharing, but you're in collective. You're buying players. And if you don't have the same amount of money as somebody else, then it could be taken as if you don't want the player. I'm obviously for revenue sharing because I think it'll even out. You got to take the personal feelings out of it because kids have the opportunity to make money. I understand every bit of that. But to turn over the roster each year, everybody does it. We just seem to have the biggest turnovers, and that's the most difficult part of the job. Okay, so let's look at this. Toughest part of the job is not that you're not in revenue sharing, but you're in collectives. You're buying players. Yes, you're going to continue to do that in revenue sharing. And if you don't have the same amount of money as somebody else, then it could be taken as you don't want the player. It's not that it's not that it's taken that you don't want them. I don't think anyone's seeing that, or at least they shouldn't. They're seeing as then you just don't want them bad enough, or you don't want them to where you're willing to match or pay more than what somebody else is willing to offer. I mean, that's just the way it is. And so what I took it from that is kind of what we've been talking about is that the NIL and the funding for the athletic program, or at least the Razorback football team, is not there. And that's sad. I don't put that on Pittman. I don't put that on Pittman at all. I put that on the entire administration for not being able to provide that support. And this is where I'm honestly, truly feeling sorry for Sam Pittman. Because if you're trying to win, if you're trying to get better, if you're trying to do better than a 6-6 season, and you're the coach, you're kind of being held back a little bit because of this fact that you're not able to compete with the NIL that is needed. And so I feel for him in that, but I also don't think that revenue sharing is this manna from heaven that's going to come down and save you, because everyone's going to have it. Everyone's going to deal with it. And I just have a hard time believing that once that happens, suddenly the clouds are lifted and all the even playing fields all across the board, and suddenly Arkansas can be right there in the mix with everybody else just because of revenue sharing. I don't buy that. It's going to be a lot more complicated, and you're going to have a lot of other teams that are doing a lot more than what you are. I just cannot stand the fact that this is viewed as some sort of life preserver. It's not, or it shouldn't be. But again, that's more of an administration problem than Sam Pittman. Give him that. And a few more things that he said. He talked about the GM and saying that Remy Cofield, he wants to have it cut down and of the bad guy scenarios and all that, which I'm okay with. Again, I'm totally okay with that and deal with the GM because he doesn't want to deal with it. I wouldn't want to deal with it either, to be honest. If I just was a football coach, I just want to coach football. But here's the final thing here that he said was, for the life of me, I can't understand how we have a portal after spring football. I can't understand that in spring football. When you're trying to figure out what your team's going to look like, you've lost this senior, you've lost this guy in the portal, you've done this, you've done that. Let's see who's going to replace who and what your team's going to look like. And after spring ball, we have another portal. He says, at the end of spring ball, you should know who's on your team. And, oh, man, we're not very good at X position. That's just how it is. You can't get somebody else. That's your team. I'm not speaking for every coach, but I believe there are a lot of coaches who would agree with me. Second portal, you're getting shook down twice. Yeah, but the problem is that you need that spring portal. You've said you've needed that spring portal. You've been successful with that spring portal. You've added some really key pieces from that spring portal. So I understand that, but at the same time, you also, after the fall portal ended, you're talking about how good you were at wide receiver, and then you needed to go get more wide receivers from the spring. So I don't get it. But again, I agree with Pittman saying that the spring portal is bad because I don't like it either. But I'm also not sitting here saying that it's wrong and it should change right now. This is a major problem. It's like, if I had my choice, no, I wouldn't. I would have it to where you get this amount of time. But I don't see it as being any issue. So it's basically what he talked about. But here's the biggest thing, folks, before we move on, because I do want to talk about Taylen Green. I want to be clear, once again, to make sure everyone understands. I agree with a lot of things Sam Pittman says, okay? I am rooting for Sam Pittman to do well. If it became that this upcoming season, Arkansas goes 4-8 and Sam Pittman gets fired, or Arkansas goes 8-4 and Sam Pittman keeps his job, give me 8-4, Sam Pittman keeps his job every day of the week. I want that to happen. I'm begging for that to happen. I hope it happens. But the tone, the energy, lack thereof, it's just not inspiring, man. It's not inspiring people to believe that this year is going to be better, that your team is going to be better, that you're going to win more games, because that's what it's all about. And I'm big on messaging. I'm big on communication. That's what I do. What I went to school for 7.5 years. What we all do. It's important. But I just feel like stuff like this, where not all you're saying is bad. It's just the approach and the sound of it. It seems like you're just not aware of the situation you're in. But it also feels like the administration hasn't really helped you out in this regard either. So I wanted to be clear, though. Again, I'm rooting for him. I agree with some of the things he said. Also don't care one way or the other on some of the things he said. But there are some things, though, that Razorback fans just don't want to hear, don't need to hear, and honestly wish that it was a little bit different. Have some energy. Throw in some tone. Say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go win. Even if you lie to me. I'd love to hear it. The player that's going to be very important to that is Taylen Green, the quarterback for Arkansas. We're going to talk about him coming up next. So stay with us here on Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, ever check into your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? I know you do, because I do. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, but that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building your actual wealth. You know, when people start using Monarch, you can realize just how much you're spending on things like food delivery. I know I've done that a lot, and it takes a little bit of time to understand just how much money you're spending on it and how much money you could be saving. But that's what Monarch Money helps you with. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan those long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is even smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first purchase. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. We talked about Sam Pittman. Now I want to talk about Taylen Green. People are probably going to think I'm being overly positive here, but I like Taylen Green. I'm going to be honest. I like Taylen Green. I liked him before the season started last year, and honestly, I am rooting for him like crazy this year. Seriously. I don't know why, in some people's minds, that Taylen Green is viewed as almost like just one of the worst quarterbacks, think he's bad, whatever it is. Is he perfect? No. Is he the best quarterback to ever play at Arkansas? No. Is he better than the worst quarterbacks to ever play at Arkansas? Absolutely. But I think there are elements to his game that can really help him out and help the team win. There were times last year where he missed wide open targets, missed wide open plays, struggled with that. But folks, there were also times where he made plays that you couldn't even fathom. Like you couldn't even make up. So I'm a Taylen Green fan. I know some of you aren't. I am. And I want to see what he's capable of this year. To me, with Taylen Green has been more about the pieces surrounding him. You know, I know that there's a chance the offensive line can be improved from a year ago, for sure. I know that there's an opportunity where you could have maybe the running back room have some guys like a Braylon Russell maybe do very well. I know you're going to be missing Jaquindon Jackson, but there could be some elements to that. The wide receiver room has a lot of speedsters, completely different type of wide receiver room like it was a year ago. So there's enough different to cause me to be intrigued. But I know that Taylen Green is going to be just as good, if not better, than what he was a year ago. It's just a matter of can he improve under the Bobby Petrino offense in year two. So some of the things that Pittman, when he was talking about Taylen Green, he said, dealing with the injury that Taylen Green had in Tennessee, it really hampered him. It really hampered him the rest of the year. And he said, quote, "We cut down some of the things we wanted to do. I think more than anything, just cutting his ability, and at times that knee would give out on him on some throws. It's like anything. If you aren't fully positive or fully confident in your injury, then it can affect you, and it did last year." He says also of Green, it's like anything. He understands the offense better. Working with Bobby has been tremendous for him. Also, he's healthy. He wasn't healthy after the Tennessee game the rest of the year. With being healthy, he can do some things that he wasn't able to do. His understanding of the offense and his ability to be healthy are now able to help him elevate his game because he's always been able to throw, but he seems to be seeing his reads faster now, and I'm really high on him. He goes into saying that he always liked KJ Jackson, the backup. He says he was our number 2 anyway after the Madden situation. He said Madden was a 3. We brought in Trevor from Florida State and Grayson Wilson, but it's just different because we had 6 quarterbacks before. Now we only have 4, but the top 2 guys are still there, and we have a lot of confidence in KJ Jackson. And then finally, when he talks about the production for Bobby Petrino from year 1 to year 2, he goes, if you look at Bobby's history and anywhere he's been, you go from year 1 to year 2, and there's been a tremendous amount of improvement. We also finished in the top 10 in offense last year, so there was a lot of improvement from the year before. Once you get to the top 10, it's hard to continue, but his history says that yardage goes up, the turnovers go down, and that's been every job he's had. Okay, so a few things here. I agree with most of what Pittman was talking about, and it's really enlightening to hear about the injury that Taylen Green went through because I think everyone knew it. He wasn't the same, and his legs are so crucial and so important to his ability to get out of there and escape and make throws and be confident in it. So I think that was for sure impactful. It's not an excuse saying that some of the throws or some of the decisions he made, it was all because of the knee, but it certainly didn't help matters. And it looks like KJ Jackson's number 2. I mean, a lot of this stuff we've already known. But the thing about it is this. It goes to the Bobby Petrino element, which you all know how big I am on Bobby Petrino. I love Bobby Petrino. And we all know about the numbers because it's been punched in our face a million times. Well, year 1 to year 2, year 1 to year 2 under Petrino. Okay, true. But this is the key. I think back when he was at Arkansas, head coach, Bobby Petrino. Year 1 to year 2 with Ryan Mallett, 2009 to 2010. Yeah, he did get better. Who is he throwing the ball to? Who is he handing off to? The same exact players. The same exact players. 2009 to 2010. Same exact players. Tyler Wilson, unfortunately, did not get a year 2 under Bobby as the starter. But in year 1 of Wilson, he was thrown to who? The same group. The same exact group that Ryan Mount was thrown to. And pretty much handing off to. I think Nile Davis was hurt that 2011 year, but still, similarities there. For sure. I know he did it at Louisville, but a lot of the pieces remain the same. So you get what I'm saying? The point is like, you got to be able to retain those guys. And this year, Taylen Green, yeah, he's there. But of the 10 other starters on offense, you got about 8 or 9 of them that are brand spanking new that haven't even played on this team before. How in the world is that going to look? I'm hopeful. It could be great. I hope it is. But it's just hard for me to just bank on, improvement. History says when this is a little bit different from the historical purposes of the Bobby Petrino offense from year 1 to year 2. That's all I'm saying. Razorback baseball today, Ole Miss, SEC tournament. Let's talk about it coming up next on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Razorback baseball today against Ole Miss in the SEC baseball tournament. You got Zach Root on the mound for Arkansas. And it's the single elimination. So if Arkansas wins 3 games over 3 days, they win the SEC tournament. Do they have to do that? No. Do I want them to do that? Sure. I feel the same way. You either go 0-1 or you go 3-0. That's how I'm looking at this. There'll be nothing worse than going 2-1. That will suck. Like, you get to the point where you're having to play, you're having to use the time and effort and energy and the pitching and everything, and then you don't get the win. So it's either 0-1 or 3-0 for me is how I look at it. But either way, going up against Ole Miss, I know that they're playing for a little bit too, and you played them earlier this year. It was a tough series. You beat them in the overall series itself. And I also think it's ironic, too, that Arkansas softball and baseball both playing Ole Miss today, which hopefully I'm going to be at the softball game. I'm excited about it. I'm rooting for them, man. Hopefully they take care of business and win this super regional to go onto the College World Series for the first time. So do your thing, Bree Ellis. Hopefully they pitch to you. But still, the baseball team on that side, like, I just want to see solid play. I want to see where you don't use a lot of your pitching if you don't have to. I want to see you try and win. I want to see you approach it that way. And I know Dave will. But I want to see hitting, because that's the thing. He's like, pitching, we can sit here and talk about, if it's good, if it's bad, whatever. But I want to see hitting. I want to see continuing to see Wehiva Aloy. He went through that little bit of a slump, and he came on a little bit later against Tennessee. Build upon that. And I want to see that. I want to see Logan Maxwell continuing to get back into it after being injured and being out with that, I guess it was his hamstring. But getting that rest, but, still getting acclimated. I want to see that. I want to see the same thing with Brent Iredale, getting him back into the mix of getting over 300, because we know some guys that have really been performing well this year. And I trust that Dave's going to handle it the right way. But to me, it's about the hitting. Pitching, just be careful. be smart. But I want to see some hitters up there. I want to see getting on base. I want to see smart decisions, good defense, good takes, just playing solid to help me feel better. Because I'm not going to feel great about it no matter what. Just being honest. I'm never going to feel great about it. Going into the regional, that is. But it'll make me feel a lot better if I just see some solid play on the offensive side. Because that's been the bugaboo here the past couple of years. Make the offense get on a roll, feel good, feel confident. Because there's nothing better than this Razorback baseball team when they're confident. I can tell you that. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel next Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you then.